Hello there, welcome to Top Channel 1, and today we're going to be looking at how to use gradients properly in Blender. So gradients are basically textures that you can use to blend between different materials or shaders. Let's add a plane here and create a new gradient, create a new material. I'm in Eevee, so I'll go in Look Dev here so that I can preview the materials. One thing I would like to recommend is make sure you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled so that you can use the same shortcuts that I'm using here. Just go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then Node Wrangler. Have that enabled. And let me also turn on my shortcuts so that you can see the shortcuts I'm using. So we're going to create a gradient, and the most obvious way to add a gradient is by using the Shift-A texture gradient texture. If we preview this using Control Shift and then clicking the node, you can see we have a left to right gradient like that. There are other ways to create a gradient. Say for example, you can bring in the input texture coordinates. I have generated a normal UV object. Any of these can work, and all you have to do is use the separate. So if you go and convert separate x, y, z, basically get a gradient of those coordinates. So we have the x gradient, which is going to be left to right. You have the y gradient, which is going to be in the y direction, and then the z gradient, which would be in the up down gradient. But because this is a plane, we don't see it. So if we extrude this into a cube, you can see that we do have that gradient. But we want to stick to a plane because it's simple to explain. If you want to move this gradient so that it starts from this point, all you have to do is add vector mapping in between the output from the texture coordinate and the input of the separate node, and you can use these to move around. So if we are looking at the y gradient, then the y gradient, you would just use the y location. If it's z, you would use the z location. So let's do some cool effects with this. Let's see how usable this is. Say we have let's say two materials. One is metallic. Let me just use my texture folders here to bring in two materials. So I'm just going to first two objects here with different materials. We can even use three objects. By the way, if you want to get textures folder, this is my own add-on, and getting it supports the channel, so that would be amazing. Anyway, so I'm going to go to this and search for some PBR materials. So let's just search wood. We can get something like this and just create a PBR out of this, and that will set up the PBR materials for us. Brick, do I have any brick in here? Yeah, we have brick, so I can also create a PBR material for that. And then let's also get this brick, create PBR. So we have those three materials, and we are going to blend them into this new material onto say this wall using a gradient texture. One thing I'm going to do is just set up a new material here. Call it whatever you want to call it. I can just go into this material, select everything, and paste them in here. So that's going to be our wood material. I can actually just get rid of this, and then go to this, copy this, paste that in, that, and paste that in. So basically we have three different materials. We have this wood, then this brick, and then finally we have this concrete. So what we can do is set up a gradient, a texture gradient like this, and we can use a top-down gradient. So this is left to right. We want a top-down, so we can add coordinate mapping. You can also rotate this by 90 to change the rotation of that gradient. And now if we blend these two materials into one, yeah, so you can see we have blended those, and now we can use this gradient as a mixture of the two. You can see we have that gradient, so it's blending the two like that. But you can also do you can add a color ramp here in the control the contrast of the gradient quite easily like that. Now if you want, you can blend a gradient like this with some noise texture. So texture, noise texture, let's get some noise texture, blend the two, and if you change this to either color band, you can basically get a more organic gradient instead of a linear gradient. So basically, so if we add the color ramp here, you can see our gradient is no longer linear, like very smooth. So we can have a more organic separation between the different materials. So something that maybe you can even play with the color band here to adjust that, play with the roughness, increase the detail, the scale, and you have something like that. So you can go further and blend this new material we have with this using a different set of gradients. So can also just reuse the same setup we have here. Just drag it up, duplicate it and drag it up. So, but we can move this a bit up. So I think this is yeah, the gradient. So the white part will show the wood. So we can bring this here. Okay, so we just want to flip this so that the wood goes up, and we should have blended 3 materials in one. So you can see we have the brick, we have the concrete, and we have the wood, and they can all be controlled using these gradients. You can also use gradients as a revealing effect. So for example, let me link my billboard folder because I have a bunch of textures there, and let me say maybe this banner here, just import it as a texture on a plane. So the add-on just helps me set up these quite quickly. So we can have a gradient, a texture gradient. So a texture gradient, this is going to give us a left to right gradient, and you can add coordinate mappings. This time we want to use object mapping, and we can also add an empty to control the gradient. So I want this empty to be at the center of the object. Now with this gradient, I can select the empty to be the control object, so I can move the gradient using this. Now what I can do, since I have this here, I can use the gradient as the alpha, and now I basically can reveal the texture or not. But because we're using Eevee, we need to make sure that we have alpha blend turned on, or it will just show black. So alpha blend, and that should reveal. So I can just animate this to reveal or make this. Now we can also make this more organic by adding a noise texture. Just blend the two and use color dodge to make the blending more organic. Now we can also add a color ramp to make it more contrasted. Maybe we can create another noise map here with a larger scale. Now when we move this, basically can create a better effect. Let's try color burn. If you rotate this, you can also get that effect. Yeah, don't forget to leave a like for more in-depth tutorials like this in a short video form. Yes, so I'll be streaming tomorrow if you want to join us, so we can make some cool, amazing stuff. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a Patreon, you can subscribe, you can like the video, you can share it. Also, you can also get the add-ons that I'm promoting in the links provided in the description. So yesterday we created this art piece in the live stream. So if you want to join us to make some cool, amazing artwork like this, come join us. You will be very much welcomed. Thank you.